You could YouTube your life away and trying to get as much information as possible. But finally, just saying, I'm going to give it a try. Because at first, if you've never done I had never done a short term rental. And I've done long leases before, right? Your traditional annual lease, but nothing short term like VRBO. And then when I heard about midterm rent, I was like, that seems to fit what I'm looking for. Then I heard about Furnished Finders, but I had never heard about Furnished Finders prior, right? Only on YouTube videos, but I didn't actually know anyone specifically, and I think that's what gives you the comfort level to say, I actually know someone who uses this platform. So one day we had visitors from Alaska that flew down, visiting my husband, good friends of his. We went out to dinner, and both of them were telling us about how they use furnish finders in Alaska and they rent out their rooms to nurses. So now I actually was able to be in front of someone live, not a YouTube video, someone live who could tell me about their experience, and all great experience. And I told my husband, I'm signing up to Furnish Finders and we're going to give this a try. So that's how I started.
Welcome to the Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the leader and largest online marketplace for midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
Joie Garcia didn't just build a profitable midterm rental business, she built one that fits beautifully into her lifestyle. With 4 midterm rentals, Joie has created a system that prioritizes peace of mind, proactive planning, and standout guest experiences. In this episode, Joie shares how she books Canadian snowbirds a year in advance, maintains 5-star reviews, and still finds time to travel and work her full-time job. Today's episode is all about building a midterm rental business that runs smoothly without running you ragged. Ooh, this sounds so nice, and I think what most of us experience as midterm rental hosts. Joie, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Yes, well, I'm excited to get started, and why don't we start off with most of your rentals, your midterm rentals, are in Palm Desert. So, what drew you to Palm Desert as a place to invest?
Well, it started off as an area that we wanted to retire in. So we purchased our first home. So when we moved from Hawaii, we decided to move to Palm Desert. And because of the tennis, we love playing tennis, just the resort living, the whole lifestyle. And at that time, it was mainly retirees that came. And then we learned slowly about how there's a high season and a low season of Palm Desert. So that was a learning experience for me. But we fell in love with the area and the people because everyone who's in Palm Desert is because they want to be here, most of them being retirees. So we planned ahead.
I love that. Tell us how your choice of two-bedroom condos set you up for success as far as keeping your midterm rental investment strategy really low stress.
Definitely. So we did ponder between, do we want a larger home or do we want something that's more maintainable? So we're empty nesters and it's just my husband and I. So we decided 2 bedroom, 2 bath to start with. And about 12 to 1300 is a couple of the rentals, and then we have a larger one around 1600. But all of them are 2 bedroom, 2 bath. And then it's just furnishing the location. So we said, okay, it'd be a lot easier to furnish a 2 bedroom, right? And a 2 bath. We definitely needed the 2 bathrooms. And then all but one rental actually has a garage. So that was a learning experience for us as well, being in Palm Desert. You really do want a garage. So after we bought our first rental, that was a carport, we decided after that we have to have a garage. But from the standpoint of a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, we also thought, okay, we started off with traveling nurses. And traveling nurses, there are nurses who travel with their families, but so far, what I experience in this area, they're more single, or maybe they have a partner that happens to also be in the medical field, but they don't necessarily are looking for 3 plus bedrooms, at least not in the Palm Desert area.
And not only have you chosen two bedrooms, but you've chosen condos. And I think that was a key step in that minimizing that stress as well, right? What's it been like taking care of the condos versus I think you have one single family home.
Correct, correct. And night and day, to be honest, because our very first home was a single family home, a front yard, a large backyard, and either you're cleaning it yourself or you have to pay someone, right, to mow the lawn and trim the trees. I actually removed all the trees from the house because I just didn't want to deal with the leaves and uh, any issues with the trees falling down. Uh, but as far as the HOAs, we prefer the condos with the HOAs. It lowers our stress. We don't have the maintenance of the condo, the outside of the condo, because it's all maintained by the HOA. So they maintain all the floral, all the greenery. They maintain, the sprinkler system. If we ever have an issue with any water issues, we just call HOA and they fix it for us. So very low maintenance from that standpoint.
Nice. And I'm pretty sure you've got some incredible amenities. Have you seen that those amenities at your properties have really set your standard to the next level and allowed you to, have a higher rental rate? Like, what have you seen with the amenities that have really stood out for your travelers?
Definitely, because we have 3 condos here in Palm Desert, and we strategically bought condos that were in a gated community from a safety aspect. Not that we're in bad areas, but it gives the tenants a comfort of being in a gated area, especially if they're single women and being in a secure area. And the amenities I can offer swimming pools, gym, tennis courts, pickleball, basketball courts that honestly I couldn't purchase that on my own and finding a home with all those type of amenities to offer. It would just be outside of my budget. So being in a desert style resort living community, I think offers much more opportunities for my renters.
All right. I want to really focus in on how you have created your business to be as low stress and pain point free as possible. But first, let's talk about how maybe it wasn't so stress free at the beginning. What were some of your early mistakes or pain points that made you realize that you maybe needed better systems or that you needed to finesse things so that you could really minimize that stress level?
Yeah, so first going into it, um, you have your condos. Uh, Supplied as though it's your home, but you need to supply it based upon your customers. And your customers are dependent on who you rent to. So I started off with the medical field and then I branched off to some insurance leads that by the way were found through Furnished Finders. So that's one thing I want to add is I've seen an uptick, at least in my area in Palm Desert, of insurance leads finding me through Furnish Finders. So I thought that was a good uptick in the platform. But definitely, it's setting up your home based upon who your customers are. So I started off with the medical field, but at first, like for instance, um, uh, I didn't have blinds, and I had light curtains. So the medical field is working second or third shift. So I needed to change that because if they're working at nights and they're sleeping during the day, they want something darker. So I chose not to put curtains up, but I did install blinds on all the condos. So this way the lighting it would be darker for them. Another one I was getting complaints because sometimes your homes sit and you might get like a musty scent But it isn't that there's anything wrong with your condo, it's just that it's sitting, right? There's no airflow going through. So what I learned was to put in all the condos is an air filter. So I just keep the air filter running and it just keeps a freshness in the home. Because there's times where I show the home and I'm not actually present. So I get their information ahead of time. I get a copy of their driver's license and I give them a temporary digital code so that they can actually view the home themselves. And of course, I get the digital notification and they're coming in and then exiting and then change the code. But those were learnings for me from a system standpoint. And then the biggest one that I learned, and this was actually through a mentor that helped me in this area, is having all white sheets and having all white towels just gives the visual of cleanliness and especially to your medical professionals, right? So ensuring that everything is matching, don't have mismatched plates or chips or just those details. And having the mentor just giving me that extra level of information and then I did. I changed my sheets so I didn't have misprints or, different colors. Everything is just solid. It's all white. And honestly, it makes it so much easier. Because if you have to replace anything, you just go to Home Goods or order it on Amazon and get you some nice quality white sheets.
Well, it's always good to know some of those challenges up front and then, what's working as you continue in your midterm rental business. And that's something that Katie and I say often is you really just have to jump in. Like, do your due diligence, use all of Furnished Finder's tools to help set you up for success, but just jump in and you learn things along the way. No one's going to get it perfect every time. And we all take feedback. We talk to our guests, we improve our systems. So I'd love to hear how Furnish Finder has helped you secure longer stays and advanced bookings as well, because we don't get to talk about snowbirds too often. So I'm excited about that aspect of your, clientele in Palm Desert.
Absolutely. And can I share a little bit of a story as to how I even uh, joined Furnish Finders?
Yes.
Okay, so, you're right. I think you need to jump right in, do your due diligence, do some research, and you could YouTube your life away and trying to get as much information as possible. But finally, just saying, I'm going to give it a try. Because at first, if you've never done I had never done a short term rental. And I've done long leases before, right? Your traditional annual lease, but nothing short term like VRBO. And then when I heard about midterm rent, I was like, that seems to fit what I'm looking for. Then I heard about furnish finders, but I had never heard about furnish finders prior, right? Only on YouTube videos, but I didn't actually know anyone specifically, and I think that's what gives you the comfort level to say, "I actually know someone who uses this platform." So one day we had visitors from Alaska that flew down, visiting my husband, good friends of his. We went out to dinner, and both of them were telling us about how they use furnish finders in Alaska and they rent out their rooms to nurses. So
Awesome.
now I actually was able to be in front of someone live, not a YouTube video, someone live who could tell me about their experience and all great experience. And I told my husband, I'm signing up to Furnish Finders and we're going to give this a try. So that's how I started.
And that was over 2 years ago. And now you have these wonderful snowbirds and longer stays. So tell us what it's like in your area.
Yeah, so with the snowbirds, they also found me on Furnish Finders. So they like to book in January, February for the following year. So they're booking a year in advance. Now, but with the snowbirds, or at least from the Canadians, you're not able to do a background check. So my neighbor happens to be a Canadian, and he wasn't renting his unit out with Furnish Finders yet, because through me, I got him to start renting it through Furnish Finders. So
Nice.
I would ask him some questions like, what should I be looking for? I don't have a means to do a background check. And, he gave me some tips. You get a copy of the driver's license, have them do the application. So I use the tools within Furnished Finders to do the application, have them fill it out. So I at least had it on file. And they filled everything out and they immediately, so I did ask them to give me a deposit and the first month's rent. And during high season in Palm Desert, the rents go up. They can double to even triple the amount. Now, I don't raise my prices that far, that high out, because I'm really looking for that reoccurring snowbird that's going to come year after year. And this one in particular, she comes down with a family of six other families. So it's not just her. So she booked my unit. And then mid through, I think February, the month hadn't even ended. She booked for the following year because she wanted to make sure, because bookings just get secured very quickly. They get booked up, and the longer you wait here in Palm Desert, the higher the prices go up.
Looking for a simple professional way to manage your monthly rental? Furnished Finder's Landlord Tools brings everything together: tenant screening, lease templates, and online rent payments, all in one place. Stay organized, save time, and stay in control. For more information, explore Landlord Tools today.
Does it make you uncomfortable or uneasy to accept bookings that are so far in advance? And then how do you manage that calendar kind of to minimize those vacancies?
So at first, I definitely did. So you talk about like lessons learned or how do you adjust to the market. So I definitely was feeling scared to book so far in advance because the timing. How do I time my bookings? Because I have to at least have the tenant exit by December 28th. I usually give myself 2 to 3 days between bookings so I can have cleaning done, I can have service done, and then we'll talk about preventative maintenance because I'm huge advocate on preventative maintenance. But before I get into that topic, when they reached out to me on Furnished Finders and wanted to see the location or the home, I did a video tour. So, or I shouldn't say that. I did a FaceTime on the iPhone so I can walk the community, I could show them the home, and then they wanted a book right away. And they literally went to their bank and wired me money. I was like, wow, they're serious. In fact, I had to tell them, don't wire me money until the lease is signed, right? Because I didn't want no money ahead of time. But I told my husband is I said, you know what, let's just give it a try. It's a year ahead of time. Nurses usually book 13 weeks out so I can control it. And if the timing isn't exact, I can at least be upfront with them and say, I can rent this location out to you until December 28th. And one time it didn't work out because they didn't want to have to relocate and find another condo. So I told my husband is that if we don't rent it out, then we'll just use it ourselves because we love Palm Desert. So we have that flexibility is we'll come down and we'll stay, use the amenities for our vacation home. But for the most part, we rent our places out. And then now, because of word of mouth, I think it's just becoming easier for us.
That's a very interesting approach to let them know that, hey, like you can have this property until a specific date when you know that you have a different lease coming in. I bet I've heard that strategy before, but it's been a while, and I think that works probably specifically with snowbirds or travelers who have a little bit more flexibility because they're traveling on their own terms. So I think that's definitely something that you have used to your advantage when strategizing this calendar situation because it can be really tough to accept a booking that's far in the future, knowing that you don't know how all your other bookings will align with it. So think about what type of travelers you have and if they're in charge of their dates or if they're not.
Yeah, and I think Joey, I think with those of us that are nervous to book that far in advance, you've tried it out for multiple years now, and I think your longest gap is 1 month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how has that how has that affected your occupancy and overall value of your midterm rentals? Like, has that affected it, or no? It hasn't really affected it for you because you enjoy staying there when it's vacant.
That's correct. That's correct. And I also use that time if multiple homes, you try to use timing on everything. And if multiple homes happen to have a gap, and I really haven't had it a gap longer than a month, then either I offer it to friends, family and friends, and we try to make a long weekend of it. We also host quite a bit. So we just use it for other means during that time that it's not being rented out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, to one of the things that really keeps you focused on a low stress midterm rental business is having good systems in place. So I'd love to dive more into your systems. You've already hinted at you like 2 to 3 days in between for turnovers. Why is that? And what does your cleaning process look like that actually is low stress for you?
Yeah, I do like to leave a gap, 2 to 3 day gap in between. Either it's because of timing, either we're traveling or, we live close outside of Los Angeles area. So when we come in to look at the home, to either fix the homes, we try to do as much as we can on our own. Plus, I also take that time to do preventive maintenance. And a lot of that is just because of my career background and being in manufacturing. So the whole key is preventive maintenance. You want to prevent items from going down so you don't have a lag time. So I use that same concept when it comes to the homes. Do I have an AC service? Do I have the heater service? Do I need to replace filters? I also test out the small appliances or even the major appliances. Because when you think of like for instance your any of your appliances or items that have water or hold water, you'll either it needs to be cleaned or sometimes there's just a odor. So like your washing machine, your house cleaner isn't necessarily going to do the deep cleaning of, let's say, servicing your washing machine. So we actually clean the filters, we drain the water, we clean inside, and then we run a solution in the washing machine just so that it's always clean and it's always fresh. Same with the dishwashers, same with the garbage disposal. So we're also checking all that from a preventive maintenance and then making sure that it's clean so that when the next tenant comes in, that relieves our stress, right? We put your work up front so that when a tenant is there, you're not getting phone calls. You're not getting that urgent something broke down. I mean, things happen, but that's why it's called preventive maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on this topic, I'm pretty sure it gets 115, I think you said, is your high. So part of that preventative maintenance is most of us do our annual AC check and heat check to make sure we're set up for success. But you go above and beyond that. So how does that give you peace of mind in your area doing, I think, up to three services per
Yes.
year?
Yes. And I know it might seem a little too much to some people to say you do three,
That's
but
hot.
one, I have a great AC person that I trust him. He has his own code to go into my home. And in fact, one of my systems is I have a list of all my maintenance people. So if for some reason something goes down, my tenants can call them directly. They have my permission because I want to minimize that downtime for the tenant. But from an AC perspective, I mean, hot is hot. So you're at triple digits. And my biggest fear is an AC going down. And I think that's why I do up to like three service calls, is just to ensure the AC's running, has all the fluids, it's clean, then, peace of mind that the tenant is not gonna have any issues during the summer months.
And how do you use it seems like you're very much about peace of mind, right? Your peace of mind, your guest's peace of mind, knowing that all of your systems are in place to help reduce any stress, any hiccups. How do you use things like leases and legal docs, especially the ones that we have offered through Furnished Finder in partnership with Rocket Lawyer, to help you have that peace of mind and just keep everything moving really smoothly?
Yes, and I do use the extended features through Furnish Finders, and that's where I do all my background checks, my applications, and my leases. So just having that ease of everything in one place is also a peace of mind. I don't have to go through different platforms to put documents together or to send information. Plus, it's all housed in one area for me. If I need to reference back, either a reference for a phone number, an email, or what's my lease terms, it's all in one area. And I actually ended up learning that because I tried another platform and the lease must have been like 75 pages. I was like,
Oh
wow,
my
this is like
goodness.
way too long. I mean, like I know California is pretty strict and has its own rules out there, but I was like, it was like 75 pages. And I said, I'm not doing this again. I'm going back to what I know works. And it's just because that particular tenant wanted to go through this other platform. But after that, going forward, I was like, I have my own platform that I use, and I will send you the link. And here's the lease signing, and I use everything that I can through Furnish Finder because that's the platform that I'm paying. So why not use all the amenities that you offer? And by the way, I love the calendar.
Oh, good. That was a huge upgrade for us. That was a huge upgrade. If anybody is unaware, we spent a lot of time and energy and resources updating our calendar. So now all you have to do is tell us what dates you are booked or you're blocked, right? Enter any dates that your property is not available and the minimum length of stay that you can accept reservations because we know that sometimes certain properties can have a 30-day minimum. Sometimes if you're in an HOA or just preference, you might have a 90-day minimum, and we will calculate your availability date. So that's huge because you don't have to constantly be updating your availability date. You just tell us when it's not available and we piece those things together. So I know as a user too, I loved that update and it just made it more streamlined and like automatic, which I'm all about.
Exactly. Yep, I just go in there and I block my dates. I now I don't have like Airbnb or VRBO to tie them together, but if I'm gonna block it for personal reasons or for a family event, then I just use the calendar and I block it. So absolutely love that feature.
It sounds like you have really thoughtful systems that put the guest at the forefront and peace of mind. I mean, that is what we try to accomplish as hospitality hosts. But with your portfolio being, I think, about 3 hours away from where you live, you have a full time job. It's pretty impressive how you have found this low stress system that works for you, but you still are very hands on and you love the area. So it's probably got tax benefits as well. But I'd love to hear how, that idea of not only keeping it low stress for yourself, but for your tenants also, like that preventative maintenance helps with a smooth guest stay. But also, 5-star reviews are a huge benefit for setting a tenant up for success that is new to the area. Typically, isn't going to tour the property before they book it. It's more like a short term rental where you book it sight unseen. They may be coming from the other side of the country or Canada in this situation. So, how have you really emphasized obtaining those 5-star reviews and that guest communication throughout the stay to just make it a great experience for your tenants?
So you said the key word, and that's hospitality. So I travel quite a bit with my companies or throughout my career. So I think I use my experience of the hospitality and being on the road for my midterm rentals. So it's all about customer service. So you can deliver bad news as long as you're communicating and communicating timely. Doesn't always work. Sometimes your guests might be upset, but the worst part is if they can't get a hold of you, right? They want to be able to communicate their concerns or any challenges and to be and know that they're being heard. So I really try to respond as quickly as possible. First, as we're going through the preliminary of do you want to view the home? Do you want me to send you a link through Furnished Finders, right? That's all preliminary discussions. And once they decide that they're interested and want to move to like the next step, and we're actually talking about dates and lease and costs, I also ask, how do you like to communicate? Some people like to actually talk live, right? It depends on your tenants. So for instance, my Canadian tenants, um, they're older, they're retired. They want to talk to you live in person, not necessarily through text or an email. Then there's others where they prefer to communicate via text. So that's fine. Also, I let them know ahead of time because of my work schedule. Either I'm flying out, I'm going to be out of country, but I give them another resource of someone to get a hold of in case there's issues. I give them information of my maintenance people in case there's an issue. And I tell my maintenance people, look, if something needs to get fixed or done, you fix it and I'll work out the payments and the details when I return. But that's because I've also established that relationship with them. So I do feel it's one is establishing relationship, establishing that rapport, and more importantly, having that open communication with the person. And it's all about hospitality. Where if you go to a hotel, you want that service. So we should be giving that same service for midterm rentals.
Well, I think I just have one more question before we get to wrap up with rapid fire questions. Katie will take lead and let's have some fun with that. But for someone that's tuning in, maybe new to the midterm rental space, what would you give them advice wise as like just the first step to get started? Because I think 80% of your bookings come from Furnish Finder. You said, education and just knowing what's out there is important. But really, what's the one thing you would say is, hey, just take this as your first step?
I would say, go look at homes, go look at condos or single family homes or one bedrooms and see what you think would be your comfort level and to just get started, right? Find that realtor, find that banker who you have a good relationship with or build a relationship with and determine that this is the market that you want to do. Determine, do you want short-term rentals? Do you want mid-term rentals? Or do you even want a lease? Because I think with Furnish Finder, you can do all of the above depending on your criteria of your home. So for me, it was reaching out to a person to get that confidence that, hey, they've done this themselves. So if someone wants to call me up, I'm more than welcome from a landlord perspective to give them advice or to tell them, just go for it, just try it. It really, yes, it's hard work, but life can be hard work. And do we want to work now or do we want to work when we're 90? I rather work now so that I can live the life that I want when I'm older.
You are such a testament to the types of landlords that we have on our platform who are open and willing to talk to anybody and give them encouragement and advice and insights. It's such a huge thing, and we see it over and over because there's so much more community in the midterm rental space than there is competition because the demand is so high, right? And we only need about 4 bookings a year, and we're here to make sure that everybody can do what we are doing so well. So, on that note, we are doing a new thing to wrap up some episodes where I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. I've got 3 questions here. I just want the first thing that comes to mind, short and sweet
Okay.
answer. And these are often going to be some of the most impactful questions that we have the whole episode. So, first up, what is one hosting task that you secretly enjoy, but most people dread?
talking to the tenants.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. That speaks to the type of hospitality, right? It's
Mhm.
not just hospitality, it's relationship hospitality. All right, ready for the next?
Yes.
What's one small thing that you do that makes your tenants say, wow?
One small thing, well, I tell my tenants that if there's anything in my home that you need and I don't have, text me and I'll Amazon it over to you. And that actually happened with an electric teapot.
It's funny how we furnish these homes for ourselves or how we would like them, but it's important to know that everybody lives life a little bit of a different way. Okay, last one. What's one thing that you used to do daily that now you have streamlined or eliminated or automated?
That I used to do daily.
Yeah, maybe not daily, but like regularly, right? Like this, maybe this was a task that you just kind of handled repeatedly or over and over, and now you've streamlined it. Maybe you've eliminated it altogether, or somehow you have gotten into a process where you're pretty hands off with it.
Would receipts count?
Oh,
Yeah, tell us
yes,
about that.
definitely.
Tell us.
Yeah, because the receipts were really just like a monkey on my back, right? Because you have
Yeah.
to keep all these receipts for tax purposes. And then I had like two or three different credit cards. And so what I did is I said, it really was just, I have to control myself from the standpoint of be diligent of using one credit card for. So what I do is I have one credit card for each home, and that's how I streamline. So I know this credit card is for this home in Palm Desert because I name them PD1, 2, and 3. And so if anything needs to be paid for Palm Desert PD1, this is the credit card and I have it labeled. So this way, when I download my monthly statements or I download that year-end statements, it's more streamlined versus all these receipts that were all over the place. So that was a huge monkey on my back. I was like, I have to take care of this. I have to do something different.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, I love that advice because we all have different things that just, we have learned over time in our midterm rental journey. If you have something you want to share that has made your journey low stress or really helped with your systems, we'd love to see it in the comments. We appreciate you tuning in. And just, we're here to bring you all things midterm rentals. Stay tuned to your Furnished Finder channels. We just want to make things easy for you and provide all the tools you need. So, Joie, thanks for sharing your story today. If someone wants to connect, how would you like them to do so? And of course, your Furnished Finder landlord profile will be in the show notes.
Oh, excellent. I'm also on LinkedIn, but I'm on LinkedIn as Johanna Garcia, parentheses, Joey.
Awesome. And it's a unique spelling of Joey. So check the show notes for that. And we'll catch you all again next time. Thanks for being with us. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.